Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I took us live just a bit early because I didn't realize that when I scheduled this show that we were bumping up against a couple of other really big shows. And so I was hoping to take us live just a tad early so that if you want to catch the other shows too, you can catch at least a little bit of this, or maybe you can kind of switch back and forth. But at least this way you got to know that there's a few options out there. And so first, I want to say hello to all of my guests and thank you for being here. Purple rhymes with orange. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, actually. So,
how's your day been?
All right. I did my stream earlier today. Will was in there with me.
Okay.
Actually got some encouraging news that I may be able to find a therapist who doesn't have a religious bent.
Wow.
Awesome.
Very good. Very good. Junkshop, how are you?
I am all right.
Maya?
I'm awesome.
Godless Sewing.
Smiling as always, and I brought my Bible. I got my Bible ready.
And Kitty.
I'm doing well, just hydrating.
Oh, Junkshop brought a Bible too.
I've got a tab open with different contradictions.
Very good. Very good. When I thought about doing this show, I was just, going in general, so I didn't prepare anything specific. I just thought we'd just go with whatever. But yeah, it's also, I'm used to when I want Bible verses, I just pull up on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I quit carrying, it's funny, used to be a big deal. You carry your Bible to church, and the real Christians carry a Bible to church. And but that was before the days that, everyone had a Bible on their phone. And once everyone had a Bible on their phone, I quit even bringing my Bible to church. I want to recognize the people that are in the chat. Thank you for coming, Ian Davenport and Atheist Mo. Those are the only ones I can see at the moment. And if anyone else is out there lurking, just say hello and we'll say hello to you too. And I always want to say hello to my patrons. Thank you so much to Abe and Helen Lowen, who have been with me for a full year. They are my longest standing patron. Also to Julie LaVoice, Junie the Apostate, Nevin Hard, Susan Schindler-Larito, Kimberly Bradshaw, Brian Rayson, Espresso Cat, and Aunt Jur. So thank you for the support to all of my patrons. And let's go ahead and get started.
And we've got Lavender Lady joining
Lavender
us.
Lady is here.
Awesome.
Hello, Lavender Lady. Thank you for coming as well.
The first thing I wanted to bring up was that I was raised Roman Catholic, so I grew up reading the New American Bible. And so,
hello, Cadence. I'm sorry, go ahead, guys.
Oh, it's okay. I really didn't read the King James Bible until I was an adult. Well, I was like 20 years old, So I don't look at the King James Bible like other people do, because it wasn't necessarily the one I grew up on. And as far as Catholicism, it has less books. So it's one of those things. But with that being said, I've read this thing covered, my King James, I've read it cover to cover.
That is King James?
Yeah.
Huge.
When I was having my my crisis of faith, I carried this thing around with me for almost 15 years.
Wow.
Wherever I traveled, wherever I moved to, that's why it has stickers on it. All the propaganda that I would get from I have propaganda in here from England, from Amsterdam, from, just all the places that I've been, from, all around America.
And Yuhan Roderick is here. We can start the party now.
Yay! Jen from Jen's Little Corners here. How you
Jen
doing?
is here? Oh,
Yeah.
Jen. Thank you for coming, Jen, also.
Good morning.
We've got a decent, good morning, Jen. I have a new computer.
Well, you know what? Jen should be here. And I'm going to say that because, we showed the shit out of this.
You had 4 people. Yeah, we did. The 4 of us were on. We're talking about this the other day.
I mentioned I have a brand new computer. I spent a few months trying to decide what to buy because I am terrible at shopping. I don't buy anything until I know exactly what I want, which is why I have furniture that is extremely old because I just can't figure out what it is that I want to replace it with.
Yep.
Yeah, the couch in the family room is older than Robin. I have clothes that are older than my oldest kid that I've had since the 70s. But I'm not good at shopping. But anyway, I bought this computer. It's a really nice computer, but it has one big fault that I discovered earlier today, which is it has only one USB port. So when I plugged in my microphone, I had to unplug my mouse.
Awesome.
So if I hit something that causes me to lose the stream, just keep going. I'll be back. Yeah, I've got a touch screen, so at least I'm, so if you see me moving my hand around a lot, it's because I'm having to use a touch screen because I don't have a mouse. So I ordered myself. What do you call those things, Godless Sewing? You showed me it earlier.
Oh, it's my port. It just has
The
a
USB
ton.
hub.
Yeah.
I have quite a few around here because I'm a mess.
So my computer is 4, and I still have a port.
So I ordered one, and I'll have 4 ports by Friday. But for today, I've only got one, and I've got my mic plugged into it. So
that was specifically one of the things I was looking for when I was getting the components for my new computer. Was just how many different ports it had on the back of the motherboard.
Yeah, no, that's a must-have.
Oh,
it's like looking for bedrooms in a house.
Well, for me, what I wanted was an i7 processor. I wanted a really good graphics card, and I needed a lot more memory, and that's what I got.
No, yeah, memory is really important to me too. But like USB is like, man, yeah. I mean, you have the microphone, the camera. I have my light, my mouse. This is insane.
Yeah. My general setup, I'm using at least 5 USB ports.
I have a lot of USB ports. Like I have a couple, I have like 2 on top I don't use because there's this thing on my desk that it's got like CD racks, and honestly I just want to get rid of it, but right now it's also holding my router and my printer, so until I get a shelf up on the wall to relocate those things, I kind of need to keep this thing, but it takes up like half the actual surface area of the desk, and it's really tight fit, but like yay much between the top of my tower and that, so I can't really plug anything in up there, otherwise the cables get bent, and it's no way.
All I heard was
and we are off
USBs.
topic, and it is entirely my fault, so we will
congrats
turn
with the
back.
new computer.
Moving
on.
It's entirely my fault. So we will get back to the confusion of the Bible. And I know some people have prepared a few things about some of the contradictions that they see in the Bible. Does anyone in particular want to go first?
Don't all talk at once.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Junkshop. Go ahead.
All right. Is the Bible a book of confusion? Yes. Exhibit A, Isaiah versus Jeremiah. In Jeremiah, you've got the word of the Lord coming to the people of Israel saying, "You will again, and soon and very soon, do your burnt offerings that are such a sweet savor unto my nostrils." The very immediate prior book, you've got Isaiah saying, "I never tell you to set nothing on fire." Make up your damn mind, Mr. Yahweh. Do you want us to kill things and set them on fire to make a sweet savor for your nostrils, or no? This is a bribery proposition.
You know,
I don't know. Yahweh loves burning shit. I'm gonna go in that direction.
People,
Kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Except Psalm 51 says, "Thou dost not desire sacrifice, else would I give it. A broken and contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise."
So like besides Jephthah, I remember Abraham not like batting an eye when Yahweh said, kill your kid. Like it wasn't even something like, wait, what? Really? like it just seems so natural. It's like, well, sometimes you have to kill your kid. Like it, and then there was, who was the guy that like killed, brought like a bag of foreskins because God just had to have him.
Well,
as a dowry.
Yep.
I mean, he just loves it. I mean, I think maybe that's kind of cut and dry. Yahweh loves the sacrifice.
So I have a question. I have a question because Junkshop is our resident Bible expert here. Did Paul ever meet Jesus besides hallucinating and rolling around and
no?
But he is the vicar of the church then.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how you read it.
Mm-hmm.
And did David have a man lover? And I have to find it. See, I'm not ready for my
Jonathan, you're talking about Jonathan. Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation on that.
Yes.
There's nothing in the Bible that specifically says one way or the other, but it does say that they had a very close friendship, and whether that friendship was sexual or not, we really don't know.
I read that as dating.
They spent a lot of time together, and when they had to flee Jerusalem in the middle of the night because of the wrath of Jonathan's daddy, they left David's wife behind.
I have a friend like that. I have a friend like that. He calls me every 6 months to make sure I'm still okay.
That's good. It's always good to have friends like that.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I have a few pulled up here. There's the power of God. With God, all things are possible, Matthew 19:26. Or the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the Old English. He drave out the inhabitants of the mountain, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. It can sound more like a fae than an actual deity, but hey. Then there's personal injury. Thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Exodus 21:23-25. And then ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him also, the other also. Matthew 5:39.
Yeah, the chariots of iron thing is kind of a problem for the argument for an all-powerful God.
Yes.
Well,
there's a lot of things that pose an issue for an all-powerful God
over the course of the Old Testament.
Yeah. 100%.
He starts off very local, very tribal, very weak. By the time you get to, the major prophets, this God is the God. He is the all God. He is the uber God. He can do everything, see everything, including what's in your heart, which he couldn't do just a couple hundred years ago.
Well, a couple of
like an
years
elimination
ago.
match, and every time he wins a match, he gains another superpower.
So God the Revenge, like a bad 80s movie?
No, I mean, it's just kind of weird. Like, you start out in Exodus where you can't even see two naked people behind a tree. You have to call out to them.
Very true. Very true.
The Christians will tell you that he wasn't asking because he didn't know where they were. He was asking because he wanted them to show themselves.
It doesn't say that, though.
I know.
You can make any text say anything you.
Oh yeah.
Look at some of the weird stuff people have done with Edgar Allan Poe's Metzengerstein. If you don't believe me, it's worse than the Bible.
I can see what idiots are doing to Congress.
So in the book of Job, it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came amongst them." Where were they?
In heaven.
Where's heaven?
The third heaven, right?
Where are they?
I believe they're in the third heaven, or the low. Well, yeah, I think it's the third heaven. The lowest heaven is where the council met.
I thought it was only the Mormons who had different levels of heaven.
No,
it's just on top of a mountain somewhere. That's where Yahweh likes to hang out.
Exactly.
Right.
One of the arguments that I've made with people about that is, Christians like to say that the whole reason that God doesn't let just anyone into heaven is because God can't allow sin into his presence, even though that's not anywhere in the Bible. So how come Satan was allowed to come and talk with God in heaven at the beginning and end of Job.
Absolutely.
Satan wasn't Satan in the Bible. If you read Job, Satan was an angel of God. He was the accuser. He was a
Well, yeah, he was
I
always
heard
an
it.
angel.
No. He was still an angel under God. Satan could not do anything without asking permission, even in Job.
So he's a
and
vampire? Sorry.
No, he's he's a agent. He's like the best I heard it was like he's like the prosecutor. And you go to jail, and the prosecutor, he's like this demon. Like, oh my God, I hate that fuck. And that's kind of how the people would have seen Satan. Like he was just like this guy that came around to torture you. He was the guy God sent to torture you. So no, fuck that guy, right? But it didn't mean that he was an adversary against God. That wasn't really a thing until like the Intertestament period for the Jews. It was certainly a
So
thing.
you're saying that Satan wasn't evil. He was
No.
just
He was not, and that's why he was allowed in heaven.
well, except that there's also verses that say that there was a rebellion in heaven, that Satan sinned and he took a third of the angels with him. That a third of the
In
angels
the Bible? In the Bible?
Yeah.
Where in the Bible does it say that?
Or I'll find it.
And
That's,
quick question as well.
that's like Ezekiel or something, though, isn't it? Isn't that in apocalyptic literature where you can't hardly even take verbs literally?
I don't remember that being in. I thought that was like the extra books that weren't. Like I know it's not Enoch.
It's in Revelation.
Okay, so
Oh,
all right. So, I mean, you can't use anything in the New Testament, like when you're talking about the Old Testament.
Actually,
Revelation is kind of its own thing, even for the New Testament.
So I have another quick question. How do you feed 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread and 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish?
Magic hands.
Is the fish deboned? It's hot as hell in Israel. If anyone's ever been there, it's
Like I just
extremely
don't
hot.
understand. Like this guy is like preaching, and his words are just so awesome. I can't. Like I'm starving to death, and I won't leave. Like that's really like I don't even understand how you get to that point.
I'm sorry.
Like,
I've
and
been
he's,
hungry.
he's on a mound preaching. He can't. He's God. He can't tell that people are dying from starvation. Like he had to be tapped on the shoulder, like God.
Or just cheat and heal everybody. I would. I'd be like, oh, you're all healed. There you go.
I could talk some more.
Keep the party going. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I'm
none of
sorry.
it.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, I never say, well, I always took the Bible stories with a grain of salt. Like people had to keep reinforcing me, like, no, this is a true story. Yeah. And I was always like, but is it? This is as a really staunch Catholic. It's the things, I mean,
People
they seem more like fables, like the whole book seem more like fables. And so like following Digital Hammurabi, and when you actually see the polemics, it makes way more sense to view the Bible through that lens than to actually take it seriously.
and it's also the lies that we tell ourselves, because I was always told like God is a God of love, Jesus is of love, and then I read the Bible and I'm like, it says a couple of things about love, but God's smiting everybody all over the place, you know?
The OT God is not a God of love.
No, and like I said on Purple Stream, like they showed us the passion, a live passion in the parking lot of my church when I was a kid.
Mhm.
There was a man bleeding in the middle of the parking lot. That's not love. That's not, that's just a good way to scare the hell out of kids.
That was the thing that hit me when I was a teenager and I read the Bible for the first time, is that, he's a God of love. And it's like, how many cities has he wiped out or told his followers to wipe out?
And even in real life, I would always say, how come no one is living this? I would go to church every Sunday, and all the people I was around were extremely angry and bitter people, So obviously they'd never caught on.
To me. Angry, bitter, jealous.
I mean,
Sounds like they're living that Yahweh life.
when it comes down to it, like if you're like God, can't even make up their mind on something like circumcision or incest. Like, I've got passages here for both. For circumcision, this is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you, thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. Genesis 17:10. Then in Galatians 5:2, if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing.
Well,
Yikes.
yeah, that's two different people talking, though. I mean, you have one which is like an actual like decree from the foreskin loving God, and then you have Paul over here that's been shunned from, the Jews, trying to get bring Gentiles in, and it's like, oh no, we're not going to bring knives around your dick.
Well,
come with me.
And what's the whole thing with circumcision anyway?
Yahweh loves dicks.
Well,
But don't
this is sloppy manufacturing. He's like, okay, I'm cranking guys out so fast, I can't take the time to trim off the mold overrun, so you guys are going to have to do it when you get down there.
You got to deal with the flashing.
Oh.
You got to deal with the flashing yourself.
Could you imagine what the other tribes called those people? They're like, stay away from those dick cutters. There you go. If those guys get their hands on you, they're gonna cut you, and not in any way that you think, I can only imagine what people thought of this one tribe that was mutilating themselves. And I know they're not the only one, but just from
during that time, there
perspective.
were a lot of religions that did some form of body mutilation.
Oh, yikes. And how many years later, and we're still doing that,
Yeah, and just that it
for a
became
while,
such a common thing that in the United States, it was pretty much being done automatically, sometimes without even asking the parents.
They still do.
Yeah.
They just assume. They will ask you if you're religious or not.
Mm-hmm.
But then going to the
Dr.
incest.
Kellogg.
The incest ones, at least I'll keep it in the Old Testament. Cursed be he that lieth with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of this mother, Deuteronomy 27:22. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, it is a wicked thing, Leviticus 20:17. But then see Genesis, but what was God's reaction to Abraham, who married his sister, his father's daughter? And God had said unto Abraham, as for Sarah thy wife, I bless her and give thee a son also. And that's in Genesis 17:15-16.
Jen says mutilated cock sounds like a punk band.
Yeah, we're coming up with some bangers for band names.
That's my next band name right there.
Fucking Jewish space lasers, mutilated cocks, man. We're on a roll.
Jewish Space Laser is going to be the name of my first album.
Jewish Space Laser.
Johan says God loves the pee-pee, so he doesn't want anyone else to love the pee-pee because he's a dick like that.
And yet apparently the pee-pee is his greatest weakness, because if you want him to stop wrestling your husband and trying to kill him, all you got to do is throw some poor kid's random circumcision flesh at him and poof, he runs away.
Oh.
Actually, I joke that I'm Grandma pee-pee. And the reason I do that is because my grandchildren's paternal grandmother has a name that starts with the letter O, and it is very difficult to say. I had to practice it like 10 times before I was able to say it. And so the kids call her Grandma O-O. And so I said, well, my last name starts with a P. So if she's Grandma O-O, I'm Grandma Pee-Pee. My daughter said, no, you're not Grandma Pee-Pee.
That's funny.
Do they still call you Grandma Pee-Pee?
No, they call me Grandma Pearsall. They've actually never called me Grandma Pee-Pee, although I've told them that they can if they want to.
See, nicknames never stick when you try to get them going yourself.
Especially the cool ones. Especially the cool ones. My whole thing about religion in general is that it was scare tactics. In my own life, personally, I was told, if you do this and this, you're going to hell. If you don't live like this, you're going to hell. If you intermingle with these people, you're going to hell. It's unobtainable perfection, and it's a really limited life,
Yeah, and the rules for what you have to do and can't, and what you can and cannot do keep changing. And anytime what is acceptable and is unacceptable changes, then we just reinterpret the Bible.
Yeah. Well,
and a classic example is intermixing of the races. You know,
Yeah.
when I was very young, an interracial couple, you would go to hell for marrying someone of a different race.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that's not forbidden anymore.
Funny that.
By the time I
What,
was
that it
8 years
changes?
old, I was convinced I was going to hell and there was nothing that could be done about it. So I actually didn't develop any sense of ethics until I threw away the Bible.
Okay, this comment from Yuhan is even better. My childhood nickname is Dido. My niece couldn't say that, so she ended up calling me Uncle Dildo.
I don't want to admit to how long my niece called me Aunt Titty. And like, my family thought it funny because I am rather well endowed in that department, so they just couldn't stop laughing on that one.
Oh my God.
And that brings up that just reminds me of something. So I grew up
Wait to see this transition. What does that remind you of?
growing up repressed.
Mm.
Having limitations, you know. I grew up Roman Catholic. Did anyone grow up anything besides Catholic? And
No.
what were the limitations?
My parents were Catholic until I was about 7, and then they left the Catholic Church, and I was pretty much raised atheist. I was not raised with a religion.
Why did they
I
leave?
converted to Christianity when I was 16.
Wait, why did they leave
Wow.
the church?
Why did they leave the church? It was primarily over birth control. My parents had 4 children within 7 years of their marriage. You know, they've been married for 7 years. They had 4 children. They didn't want any more. They knew that if they kept on the way they were either going to have a whole house full of children. So either the church had to go or the marriage had to go, and they loved each other very much.
Yep.
They wanted to keep the marriage, so that was the end of the church.
I'm having Monty Python flashbacks. Every sperm is sacred.
Yeah, actually, most people don't realize that the term heterosexual was originally a slur. It was used in the 1930s to talk about couples who committed the unpardonable sin of having sex with no intention of having children.
Really? That's interesting.
Interesting. What were you? What like? Well, I guess you were just like normal, or like.
Well, you weren't supposed to have sex unless you were trying to make a kid. That's all there was to it. That was the only reason you would do it.
See, that's more repression, and that's just boring.
Yeah, I mean, it's boring.
I'm a fairly independent person, so I just don't see the need of ruling over other people. I believe in letting people live their own lives. So still to this day, religion scares me and how much control it has over you. And what tells you what to eat, what time of year, what to do, who you do it with, you know.
Who to love?
Yes.
Who to love, who to elect to govern over you.
Which, I'm sorry, but the Republican Party is the farthest thing from anything Christian that I've seen.
Yeah, I really don't.
At least in the modern sense, you know.
Well, that's the way it was always traditionally done, though. You know, and that's why King Henry had to start the Church of England, because he didn't want to deal with the Vatican anymore, but he needed a bishop to say he was the legitimate king.
Because divine right to rule.
We never did hear what sect Junkshop was raised in.
United Methodist.
Oh, okay.
What is the like? Why did they?
That's what I was as a teenager.
United Methodists are sort of soft-core Episcopalians. Episcopalians are sort of soft-core Anglicans. And then Anglicans are sort of soft-core Catholics.
Yeah, I always heard Episcopalian is Catholic light.
Exactly.
AronRa is
The
here.
hardest of the hardcore.
Hang on.
I'm
Thank
honored.
you so much, Aaron. It is
Oh, my
so
goodness.
wonderful to see
Oh.
you here. Thank you for coming.
How's it
No, I
going?
mean, like, seriously, Aaron, if you want to jump in here, we're talking about contradictions in the Bible. I know how you love that.
Would you like to jump in, Aaron?
For me, it was always people never lived it. So anything that they would say in the book, I was like, no one's living this at all.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, because like, if we're talking about the Bible, Throw out absolutely anything. I will find you a verse that will corroborate it. And I will find you a verse that will tell you that you're going to burn in hell forever for it.
There's a website for that you can enter any Bible verse and it will give you one that contradicts it.
I believe it. I believe it.
But yeah, I mean, people pick and choose, you know. My favorite one is with the LGBT community. It's like God hates them so much, and I'm like, I don't. Why do you think that? Like, I specifically remember Jesus saying that he hates rich people. A rich man will never get into the kingdom of heaven. The one time we see him angry, I mean, you know, besides the fig tree, is at the money changers table, you know, and we worship money. So it, you know, but no. Despite Jesus never ever once touching homosexuality, it is the worst sin, and we should make them feel as uncomfortable as possible, sometimes even to the point of death.
I think the fig tree was just Jesus'
Who's
own
recorded that
image.
Grace and Fritz video, by the way? From fans.
I have.
But to me, the fig tree was always about Jesus's impotence. It's much easier to, you know, like secretly salt the earth under the tree. It's like he couldn't make it bear fruit out of season, and got pissy, so he just fucking poisoned the tree instead. No divine intervention necessary.
Yeah.
It's a lot of magic and hand waving.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of like, oh, and thus says the Lord, and thus says the Lord. So shut up and just do what I say.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
When it's straight up magic. Times when it's straight up magic. Stick magic.
Stick magic.
And we have AronRa.
How's it going?
A pleasure. Would you
Hello, welcome.
well, you're the newbie, so you need to jump off the new topic.
Yeah, you should introduce yourself to the people who.
Hi, I'm Aaron, the janitor.
Hey, that's in Mission to Mars. That's a cool, cool line on the ship. The guy was Val Kilmer was the janitor.
Yeah, I got a new favorite T-shirt.
Reading is fun.
Oh,
believe
cool.
the term
that is a cool
I love
shirt.
that.
Well, I believe the term is mechanical systems engineer.
I love.
But we
that
will
movie.
accept Space Janitor.
I love.
That is
that
one of my
movie.
favorite movies.
Heck yeah. I love just pointless techno babble because it's nothing, but it just sounds cool, kind of like the Bible. A bunch of hand waving and thus says the Lord, thus says the Lord.
And it came to pass.
Well, as a science fiction writer, I know that you have to throw some of that in because you have to make it sound like there's actually a convincing theory behind the device you just built.
Just like church, going every Sunday, you have to make it exciting. After a while, you have to start making stuff up to keep people coming in.
I mean, to me, really,
Yeah, I don't remember my pastors trying to do that.
I wanted to address because I got to be on camera for something else in just a moment.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me in. Very nice. On the topic of is the Bible a book of confusion? Nobody knows what the fuck it means.
Yes.
What I've noticed is there's a whole lot of people will tell me the Bible says this. I say no, it doesn't, and they can't show me where it says that. But when I say the Bible actually says this, they say no, it doesn't, and I say, well, look, I'll show you where it says that, and then they run out of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they'll tell me that like was brought up before, that there was this army of angels, there's a third of heaven, and there was this big war and everything. All of that is based on a misreading of Isaiah criticizing Babylonian mythology. Has nothing that the serpent in the garden was never supposed to be Satan.
Right.
Can it actually have been Satan? I mean, when you ask people, what tells you that the first book of the Bible, that the serpent in that is supposed to be this devil character, because it doesn't say so.
Yep.
Well, they say, it's because the last book of the Bible says Satan is that old serpent. And I say, well, go back to the first book. Doesn't you remember where it says, the serpent was cursed to crawl in his belly all of the rest of his days? Now let's go back to Revelations. Let's go back to that last book. And what does it say? It says, Satan is that old serpent standing on the beach. How the fuck is he standing? And then
because he's a dragon in Revelation.
let's go like more toward the middle. We have Jesus, who's accusing the Pharisees of being vipers and of being the sons of Satan. Does that mean that Jesus is saying that they are literally snakes? Well, if Jesus is not saying that the Pharisees are literally snakes and the sons of Satan, then Revelations is not saying that the serpent, that old serpent, is not that old serpent, not the one from Genesis. Nor can it be, because in Genesis, where it says that the snake is going to be cursed to crawl in his belly all the rest of his days and be bruised on his head by women, they're talking about the origin of snakes, not the origin of Satan.
Yeah.
And we know that because the first time that Satan is mentioned, as you brought up yourself a moment ago, he's walking. They specifically describe him as walking, right? Mm-hmm. And this is chronologically after the bit with the serpent. And God and Satan have not had a falling out, right? They're still buds. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, in the whole of the Bible, there's two things that Satan does that are deemed to be evil. The two evil things that Satan does. One, he tried to reason with Jesus. Because there's nothing worse than trying to use reason, right? And then the other thing was that he killed, I think, 10 people on a bet with God. And then God used the excuse that the devil made me do it.
So was God the first to say that? Was God the first to say the devil made me do it?
I believe so.
Although even with 10 people,
trying to
say that Eve was.
Yeah. So why is it when you go back to the Middle Ages or to the Renaissance rather, every depiction by all the great artists, I mean every one of the Ninja Turtles depicted the temptation of Eve, the serpent is a woman. Every one of them. Mm-hmm. On the cover of my book, for example, like we got this picture standing outside on the front doorstep of the Notre Dame Cathedral, and one of the pedestals for the saints. There's a depiction of the temptation of Eve, and Eve is this curvaceous woman Naga, right? And so she appears that way in a lot of these different representations by, as I said, all of the other Ninja Turtles. And we're talking about the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo painted the serpent as a woman Naga, right? And so why is it that the entirety of the church was depicting a female character instead of the Satan? There's one painting, I have to make a caveat, there is one painting in which the serpent has the head of a king with a beard and a crown. What that's referring to exactly, I don't know. But in every other one, and that one's from the Middle Ages, but in every other one, it's always a female character. Now, according to Talmudic legend, there was another wife before Eve.
Right, Lilith.
Yeah,
right?
Lilith.
Exactly.
Like honestly, like the story of Lilith has always been one of my all-time favorites.
Oh yeah, me too.
And I like how they have reinterpreted it in modern like supernatural shows, like Lucifer or
wasn't she like
others.
Wasn't she like a vampire queen of the damned also? Was that a blend of those two characters?
I've seen that
A little bit, I think.
Actually, when I was in the pagan community, being the children of Lilith was a common phrase.
I mean,
Is it
she's
good or
definitely a
bad?
feminist icon. Like, I mean, but yeah, no.
Yeah, that's interesting that Lilith was always a feminist icon at the same time and bastardized in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
So for those that are not familiar with the story, Lilith knows that Lilith doesn't want to take a subservient position to Adam. Literally, she doesn't want Adam to be on top. She wants to cowgirl or find some equivalent position. And Adam isn't having that. So Adam goes to go tell Dad, go tell the father figure. And so God is now going to impose that Eve be subservient. But she knew the secret name of God, that she knew his real name. And uttering his real name gave her magic powers, specifically the power to fly. So she flew out of the garden and then went on to the shores of, I think it was the Red Sea, to have an orgy with a bunch of demons.
Yeah, she became the mother of monsters. And lullabies were originally sung to try to keep Lilith from stealing infant babes from their cribs.
And that's how you get the integration with the vampire legend.
And Doctor Who.
Well, that explains where the people in the land of Nod came from when Cain was expelled from the garden.
Well, that's another important point on whether the Bible is confusing or not, because there's a group that you guys would know from the demolition of the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. That was done by a Christian fanaticist terrorist group called the Christian Identity.
Yep.
Now, that was just one of many things that they did, acts of violence against synagogues, against abortion centers, and just a number of different kind of terrorist tactics. But the Murrah building was like their most famous act of violence. One of the things that they believed was that Jewish people came from the union of Eve being seduced by the serpent, which they took to be Satan.
Wow.
So, and I remember meeting somebody. I was very frustrated with this. I had a girlfriend once upon a time. I asked her this question. Our relationship really went south when I got the answer to this question. But it was, if you could go back in time to any point in history and change it, what would it be? The thing she wanted to change, she said, was when Eve fucked the snake. And I don't remember that in any version of the Bible.
One thing I will add to Lilith, though, Lilith was technically Adam's equal in that she was made from the same dust of the earth as Adam.
Oh yeah, they were made
And the
together.
reason why, when he created Eve, it was from Adam's rib was so that woman would know she came from man and thus should always be subservient to man.
So
Yeah, because
the
why not fuck
continuation
over
of that,
women?
the continuation of that story then is that Eve now has escaped, but then for whatever reason she comes back to the garden because she alone has that ability, and she finds that now Adam has had this new woman, the new younger woman made out of his rib, which is another that came from another story. We'll talk about that later. So Lilith comes back, and now she is the serpent, and she's going to tempt Eve just to screw up Adam's second relationship. Why hell hath no fury beyond a woman's scorn? I don't know.
No, women are just we're just evil. Like we can't help ourselves. Yeah.
According to Abrahamic religions, yeah, y'all are.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just men being scared of women.
Can't let us do anything. Yeah, and it's really insane because when I'm looking at other religions at the time, like there were really badass like divas going on. You know, a lot of them, like what do you call it, with the like with El Baal, he had a sister, I think it was a Knot. She was like this warrior goddess. The Greeks at the time had a bunch of like warrior goddesses, and you know, Yahweh just kind of took on like the embodiment of all of this, you know, and you know, while the women are just like fucking around, fucking shit up, you know, being dumb blondes, bitches, whatever. It's like the women in the Bible. I mean, you get a couple who are noteworthy, but like even when I'm thinking about you have Ruth, who is just like the best little homemaker. Like, you know, nobody could like love her mother-in-law like her. Esther was, you know, the best little whore in town.
Well, that's why we know her name. There are so few women in the Bible who we get their names at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
one of my favorites is at oh damn, I knew I was going to mess it up as soon as it started coming out of my mouth. At Athaliah, the queen of Israel, who in one book is talked about as good Queen Athaliah, who led the Israelite people in the ways of righteousness, and then in the very next book is talked about as evil Queen Athaliah, who was struck down like a dog for her evilness and her leading the people astray. Book of confusion? You bet your ass.
So at what point do we tell people like politely, this is made up? You're making this shit up.
Yeah,
I reach a certain point where I'm like, proof or, you know, It just
Picture it didn't
yeah.
happen.
The evidence where it didn't happen.
I'm a modern person.
Yeah,
I
I
wanna
had to
take a
explain
selfie
that
with-
concept to my 78-year-old mother today when we were arguing about QAnon stuff.
Oh.
Oh,
boy.
gosh.
And
Whoa.
she says that she knows that this is true. And I have to explain to her, if you can't show it, you don't know it. There's this concept called pictures where it didn't happen. I know that goes completely against your belief system, but such is the case for sane people.
That's
Anyway.
one reason.
Has
That's one
she
reason
seen the news that they're talking about, getting, taking Marjorie Green off of the?
Oh, they're not going to. They're not
There'll
going
be
to.
no accountability for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cheney, they're going to boot her because she was not in lockstep.
Yeah.
So she is a heretic. But Green, no, they're going to keep her because they want to keep all the loonies voting exactly the way they're supposed to.
Well, that's because
she's making a bunch of money for them too. Just like with AOC, I think they wanted to do more with her, but she was like the number 2 money maker. So they're like, all right, well, maybe we could be friends. Green, I think she has the number 1 grassroots pulling in money on the grassroots front. So I'd be really surprised if they kicked out a moneymaker because that's all they care about.
The thing is the Republicans are scared because they're fucked either way. Because either they lose the Marjorie Green Looney Tune base, the diehard Trumpers, because they just don't show up, or if they aren't coddling Trump and his Looney Tunes supporters enough, then they'll start the third party that he's threatened, the Patriot Party. Either way, either they don't show up or they vote for a third party that Trump starts, and the Republicans will never win a national election again.
I
At
hope
least
they do.
not for a long time.
I hope they start a third party.
Well, I'm kind of figuring it's going to be enough chaos that the Democrats have about a decade to repair the damage Trump did.
With 2 years.
We better do a whole lot in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But I'm
years.
pleasantly
Historically,
surprised.
it is not in our favor with the midterms post one party controlling all 3.
Yeah, the Democrats have to show some results within 2 years to get people to just sign on to let them stay.
And the
I really
Republicans.
wish I could sit back and be part of this conversation because there's a whole lot more that I'd like to say and that I'd like to hear on this very topic. But I have to be on camera for something else shortly, so I'm going to have to bail.
Well, thanks for coming.
thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you
anytime.
for coming. I still owe you a beer if we're ever in the same place.
Thank you very much. Whenever we can have regular lives again.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank
you
you.
later.
Bye.
We made you.
Oh, that was a nice surprise.
That was
Aaron
such
is
a
so
treat.
great.
Yes,
Awesome.
she is.
No,
She
wait,
is.
holy shit, am I right?
Right?
Yeah, a little fangirly.
Oh, is
Little bit.
is he gone? This rock is an Episcopalian. Gotta laugh. Gotta laugh. We gotta laugh.
Will, what am I going to do with you?
What were we talking about? What were we?
Inconsistencies in the
I
Bible.
know.
Yeah,
You know-
there is so much of it that people think is in the Bible
Mhm.
that is actually from other sources that just got woven in through the sermons over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the entire Christian concept of hell
Yeah,
is
the
not in
entire
the Bible at all.
yeah. The entirety of it. It's insane.
That's why I always go back to
Dante or it's medieval art. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the majority of it was taken from Dante's Inferno, and
The
most
majority
Christians
of it,
aren't
yeah.
even aware of that.
And has been used to traumatize children for generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also they borrow a lot from other religions too. I was reading a book on like the polemics in the Bible, and I hadn't really even realized just I'm going to take this from over here, and I'm going to take that from over there, and I mean, and a lot of it's just like shitting all over like every other extant religion. Like our God's got a bigger dick than yours, but it it's interesting, like, to hear them talk today about what the God, quote unquote, always was. And then you see them, well, one, you can just read it and it's like, you're clearly polytheist. Like, you're never, like, throughout the entire Old Testament, I mean, it's questionable if they were ever actually anything more, I would say monolatry at best. But like, I just don't see them as being monotheistic in the entire OT. So, I mean, to the point that, I mean, I know we're lucky that we live in a time where we've resurfaced all these old texts and a lot of it's been lost and they made sure it was forgotten. But, and a lot of that is where the miscommunication is coming from. It's like, well, why are you saying this over here and then this over there? Well, it depends on what, religion it's ripping off.
Yeah. Well, and as I think it was Jen in the chat said earlier, that it's really just a really badly edited and
yeah.
No, that was Diana.
Okay.
Worst ever.
No, yeah, they try to scrub it up, and I'm like, you guys are really fucking bad at this.
You've got stuff left in that makes no sense compared to the rest of us. You've got the rest of it, rather. You've got stuff that obviously should be there because it's being referenced right, left, and sideways by all the other parts of it, but it's nowhere to be found. You've got it's like, who was in charge of editing you, and how did they ever keep their job?
That's why I asked that question about
the Amaleks when you need them.
Well, you got to remember that it was done during the Dark Ages.
Most people were illiterate, so and the masses didn't really.
That's not a valid excuse.
But look, but
it goes back to why I asked, like,
if you go with that, and even if you go with the most Machiavellian perspective, if you say we've got all these disparate texts, and we, the priestly class, are going to weave them together into a monolith we can use to rule over the poor, the illiterate, and everybody else we can squeeze a penny out of.
Yeah.
Would you not do everything you could to make sure that it was absolutely goddamn fucking bulletproof?
Well, and with the power of the Catholic Church, I mean, you get a dozen nerds in the room and you can throw 3 different franchises at them, and in a couple of hours they will somehow have retroconned it all together.
You're right. Speaking of retconning, what do you guys think of young Earth creationism? I can't even say it. Because I didn't I didn't even know these people existed until I got on YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I don't associate with people. I don't.
Why would you?
To me, that and flat earthers are just I look at them like, wow, they still make you,
right?
Like, wow.
And
I heard about them.
The Venn diagram where those two come together.
When I was on a believer, I was on the fence because
Young Earth.
I was on the fence over Young Earth, Old Earth, because I heard a lot of Christians making arguments, although they didn't characterize it that way. They characterized it, do you believe in evolution or don't believe in evolution? They don't go by the terms Young Earth, Old Earth. And so at the time, when I was first formulating my ideas on it, this was in the late 70s, early 80s. And so what we know about evolution today isn't what we knew back then. The fossil record that we have today, compared to what we had back then is phenomenally different. The dating methods we have today, and we didn't have the internet. So when people were telling me that, hey, the dating methods don't work, I believed them.
Yeah.
When people were telling me that, the fossils that we do have are perfectly consistent with, a flood event. Actually, I don't think I ever heard that one until after I was an atheist, not that one in particular.
one of the things that angers me is they always bring up the Grand Canyon, and as someone who's been there, if you think that was created by a flood, I have a bridge to sell you.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like I mean, if nothing else, it was a global flood. Why don't we have more than one? I don't. I mean, none of it makes sense
At all.
I understand. I really and truly do. You have to look at to really be a deep down gut level. I certainly and truly believe it. Young Earth creationism. You literally have to look at the world through the eyes of a child. Everything you see and everything you encounter has to absolutely blow your mind as evidence of the might and the power and the wisdom of God. And so everything you see reminds you of God and brings God's word into focus. You go to the beach, there's sand everywhere. God said to Abram, your descendants will be as look how much it is. This is magnificent and marvelous. And you go to the Grand Canyon, you say, oh, look, that was caused by the great waters of the flood that subsumed the entire planet and wiped out every living thing. You've got to look at everything that way. And if you do, it makes a certain amount of internal consistency.
They now have.
You run up against things like facts and logic and science, and then you've either got to say, oh dear, perhaps not, or you got to say, well, just absolutely fuck math and logic and science and go on your way with the other thing.
I was thinking about going there this summer to the Young Earth tour that they have in the Grand Canyon.
Why?
I couldn't keep my mouth shut long.
No, that's the thing.
No, I've already dropped 2 F-bombs. Long enough.
It's the one group I haven't been kicked out of yet, so it's got to go off on my bucket list,
Gotcha.
Like I said, I didn't discover them until later in life. And so it's just, I look at them like, there's fairy tales and then there's Young Earth creationists. I don't understand it. They're quite literally making it up.
I would bring up things with them like, trying to like stay in their wheelhouse, so to speak, of, they take the Genesis account as literal. It's like, okay, so, in Genesis 1:3-5, on the first day, God created light, then separated light and darkness. But it wasn't till the 4th day that he created the sun, which is what separates light from darkness. And I would point out, like, I had a little notebook like that I kept with me when I would run into these people.
I have a few questions for them. Like, how can they explain trichromatic vision, the colors that we see? They have evolved over time. So if the Earth was 10,000 years old, we wouldn't be able to see certain colors.
I don't understand that.
Our eyeballs have evolved over time. Back when our ancestors were salamanders,
Oh, okay.
Over millions of years,
Well, they would just argue that didn't really take that long.
Well, I think there's 3 colors in your printer. You got magenta, cyan, and yellow.
Without those animals, we wouldn't exist, you know.
And there's another contradiction right there, is that they don't want to acknowledge evolution, but they're trying to take the Ark story literally and say that out of 14,000 kinds of animals, all the millions of species we have on Earth appeared in about 2,000 years, or what is 4,000 years or something.
Then we wouldn't be able to.
That's like
That's
like
they
evolution
appeared on
at a
day
much more
6.
rapid scale.
I'd like to discuss a little bit about what Mage Grey Wolf has said here. He says the argument that pre-flood conditions were different doesn't fly, as the ark being deposited on the mountain would have the earth in a post-flood state. The way I always saw it, and the way it was explained to me, and the way I understood it, was that the earth had not yet tilted on its axis, and when the flood came, the earth tilted. It was the process of the earth tilting on its axis that caused all of the oceans to flood the entire world. And so it was the combination of that tilting in addition to the rain that caused the massive movement of water that caused the flood.
You know, my eyes glazed over. I felt like I was in high school because at some point I just I stopped.
I'm over here like
Yeah, that
can't
explanation.
find anything hard enough.
Yeah, that explanation would work on a flat Earth. It doesn't work with a globe. Basically, it's saying that we were on the,
Well, okay, so it starts as being dumb as fuck and gullible enough to hear just God is magical. Like, you guys gotta stop trying to put logic to this. God is magical, and we can do all things, and all things can happen with God.
So basically, don't confuse the story with fact.
Right. No, we don't need to facts up in here. We have Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you need facts when you got a Bible? I still say it shocks me that people still believe this, but to each their own. To each their own. And it's funny. Yeah. I stopped judging people when I stopped going to church. I stopped tearing people apart, caring about other people in superficial ways. Yeah. When I stopped being around quote unquote church people, So for me, I always look at leaving religion as freedom, as something that saved my life,
Yeah.
No, it certainly it felt like a weight lifted because you didn't have to harbor all these ill feelings. Like I remember with homosexuals in particular, just feeling like, well, I'm supposed to hate them. And just being like, oh my God, I can just love people, we're in this together. And we're really on the same side on almost all issues. So, I mean, for the most part. So, I mean, I didn't even realize, when you're in it, you don't see it. And I try to go back to that person I was, where it's where you're brainwashed to believe that you have to hate people that, if God really hated him, he could just stop making them. But you believe that for some reason, you have to feel this way. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. I just felt the way I felt. And when I look at people like Young Earth and Flat Earth or just anti-vax, all that stuff, it's just well, they believe that God needs them to feel this way, and I can at least relate with that. So that kind of takes a lot of the judgment out of it.
I just always looked at the God of the Bible as extremely insecure and angry and violent, and
we're written by a guy like that.
Exactly. That beat everybody, that put hands on everybody around them.
Well, and that's another big area of contradictions is, does God change his mind? Because if he doesn't change his mind, why did we need the flood? Because he had to wipe out most of what he had created because he made a mistake.
Oopsie doopsies.
I mean, to me, the Bible was written by, obviously misogynistic, pricks, but it always struck me as kind of like MGTOW before it was cool, MGTOW incel kind of that's the vibe I get from the Old Testament. It's very much fuck women. We're going to keep them in their place because I am better. Erase the fact that there were strong female deities in that contemporary time. And no, it's literally just a religion for MGTOWs.
It's the angry goat herders who like to cut their penises and beat the hell out of people and control everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's literally a religion of goat herders.
Well, there is an awful lot of it that obviously was based on misogyny, because before that there were a lot of religions that had very powerful goddess figures, and the Bible seems to go out of its way to eliminate any hint that a woman could have any position of power.
No, I mean, yeah.
And there are occasions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I'll make it quick. Because I was reading recently on the Yahweh and his Ashereth, seeing if there's more headway with that. And I didn't even realize there were Asherah statues in the temple, in the Jewish temple. And I'm like, wait, what? What the fuck? How did I miss that? And I'm like, sure as shit in Kings. So I think it was Second Kings. Yeah, you see them. The king or whatever had something happened, and he was like, I want all these things out. There was a Baal statue in the temple. There was an Asherah statue in the temple. They dragged them out. They beat them to a pulp and spread the ashes over the dead. I mean, because that's how Yahweh do. But when you're looking at the artifacts that were in the tombs of rich old people, and like the pottery and other things, like you're seeing like these figures together, like he was married, and they went, like they really did go out of their way to say, no, God is all of these things, and or Yahweh is all of these things, and we're just going to do him now. And like this, whole rich culture, it's so crazy. I'm glad we see it in the other text. But yeah, it's crazy.
Harmonica Man says he's going to join us.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What were you
I
saying?
love the books of Kings because you've got this endless cycle of a king will rise to power and go, nope, nothing but Yahweh. We're going to do nothing but Yahweh, just Yahweh all the time. And then that sticks for about 2, sometimes 3 generations. And then another king rises to power. He says, you know what? We're going to bring back the Asherah poles. We're going to bring back the sacred groves. We're going to bring back maybe not Moloch, because, we like the babies. But, and all of these other little cults and religions will be allowed in as well. And that'll last for about 2 or 3 generations. And then another Yahwist king comes up and says, no, now we got to go chop down the sacred groves. We got to pull up the Asherah poles. We got to knock down the high places. And this happens for like 2 solid books.
Yeah,
Hello, Harmonica Man. Thank you for joining
Hello.
us.
How's it going?
But I mean, and the funny thing about the Bible is
Everyone,
like,
what I
Yahweh's
think
just
the
like-
real deal. Go ahead, Mike.
oh, no, real quick. Yahweh just smites them for no fucking reason. Like, there's nothing like, okay, because you did this, I'm now going to do that. It's just like, oh, wait, your enemies came in and burned down the place. When did that happen? It like, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Most of the
Well, I was
fighting,
just going to
think, just
say,
had to do-
that before I got on, we were talking about the circumcision thing. It is pretty much, we didn't have any sanitation, and I got an infection on the end of my wiener. What the hell should I do about it? Well, just clip it off. What the hell happened anyway? Well, I fucked a goat.
I heard that was one of the reasons Leviticus was written,
So saith
was
the Lord.
to stop the tribe from having sex with animals.
The whole book?
No, just that the line of no man shall lay with other man. When they were letting the rules out, stop doing this, don't do that, kind of thing. But that's what it is. Like, if their God existed, would their God care what your dick looked like, what you ate, what time of year you ate that? Just still to this day, it doesn't make
smack that pig ass.
Yeah, and
Hashtag
the
blood
Christians,
oath.
the Christians who go on about, biblical law and God's authority and that, yeah, you need to start pointing out some of the shit Leviticus says, because there's no way anybody today would live by that.
At all.
Yeah.
And they preach about it while wearing those cotton poly ties.
Yeah, or eating shrimp,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and most of all, the women.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Christian
yeah,
women who
women
are saying that
braiding
we
their
need
hair and
biblical
wearing
law, and it's like, yeah, you're really going to agree to the position you would have had then?
The
Going
Bible
to
actually
church,
says that
not
women
menstruating.
should not braid their hair or wear gold jewelry.
or speak in
I
church.
always have to tell my
We're speaking
sisters, try
church.
not to teach this man, because I can take you out back and stone you to death.
Yeah.
I keep asking why we have female teachers in Christian schools.
Yeah. What I did deal with
That
the
doesn't
Catholic
count as
school, it was always
church.
the nuns.
But no, it says that a woman should never teach a man. And are not the male students in
No,
a
no,
high
no.
school
Well,
young men?
according to
No.
Not by our cultural
according to
definition.
the Bible,
Man,
Godless Granny.
come on, we could do the apologetics battle all day long.
No. Women and children are property.
Well,
So that's why the nuns were
Granny
allowed
says, especially in the Catholic Church, that the confirmation is the ceremony that you become an adult member of the church,
Yep.
which in the
Mhm.
Catholic Church usually happens when you're 13 or 14.
Right about
So
exactly.
yes, all the boys in the high school have been acknowledged to be adult men.
Mhm.
That's when you can decide to go to church or not, basically, in the modern era. That's when your parents can't tell you. In the public school CCD program, they coincide with your 17th, 18th birthday. If you're in Catholic school, you're confirmed by the time you're 14. If you're in CCD classes, it's like a couple years later because you're basically going to classes on the during the school year.
Same with the Episcopal Church, 8th grade.
Yeah, it just depends on the denomination,
It
and
was
in each church is
Around then
different.
for me too.
Well, all of my brothers got confirmed when they were 14.
Yeah, I
Friends-
went to Catholic school. We had to, or I don't know if they charged you more or what happened, but like it wasn't really an option.
Fran
go ahead.
Wilson brings up a good point. She says, according to Digital Hammurabi, the original text about men lying together applied to family members. Dr. Josh said that the text was changed later to make it homophobic.
Well, that's a recent, I think
Huh.
that's a very recent thing, and I know there's a lot of contention behind that, but there's been a big push, I think, in the last 5 years or so that there was not actually any the Old Testament didn't actually say anything about homosexuals. So there's been a lot of that. I don't know, people taking different texts and saying, okay, no, it wasn't this, it was that. And I'd have to see. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him about that again and see if there's scholarly consensus, because when he made his original video on it that I saw, which was about a year or more ago, there was just one paper that had just come out about it, and he was talking about it, and so I don't know. A year and a half is probably sufficient that more people should have weighed in, or at least there should be a consensus on what they think.
Yeah, I can't quote the verse or anything, but what I was getting a lot of was that the translation had actually referred to a young boy. So rather than being about homosexual, it was more about pedophilia, about being with someone underage.
And then later it was changed to shame LGBTQIA people after that.
Yeah, and I heard that I'm not sure which passage
Confusing.
she's talking about, but I think in Deuteronomy they're saying that the one that references homosexuals is actually inserted. It wasn't even changed, it was inserted. And they believe that because the style of writing is inconsistent with the rest of the passage.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you think the hatred for the LGBT community started? Or when was it, or has it always been there? Or is it a form of control? Is it just
I
hatred?
don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't think it's always been there, but I know it's been there at least since the 50s.
Because there's certain things I look at as internalized homophobia. So because someone hates themselves, they'll write these thrashing things in the Bible, say homosexuals can't do this and this. It's because they hate themselves, or they'll misinterpret something in the Bible.
Yeah, I think at least through Victorian times in Europe, there wasn't really anything about it. That there were documents of some pretty wild parties by the nobility, and it wasn't necessarily just men and women. So the royalty at the time seemed to be okay with it.
They were fine with cocaine too.
But I mean, I could also see the argument of it going back to the Christians' issues with the Romans, because there were young boy prostitutes, and homosexuality wasn't necessarily as frowned upon in Greek and Roman culture at certain times. So, I mean, the argument can be made that it's a more contemporary thing, or that it was kind of a fuck the Greeks and the Romans.
Yeah. I just look at it always as it's just another
Well,
group
the
of
whole
people.
Greek society decided that the male form was more beautiful, and they actually, the Olympics, they did it all naked.
Yeah.
By the way, and their entire society was just promoting gay men, basically, because it was more beautiful.
Mm.
And trans.
So I don't
Just all
know
throughout history.
why that changed.
Yeah, and that I'm like racking my brain, and I'm like, I can't think of like what happened or when. I just keep thinking of like culture after culture after culture who is just like, who cares? This doesn't affect me. I kind of wish our culture was like more pro live and let live, but
and because I knew at a young age who I was, and being bisexual, I was like, these people hate me. You know, these people utterly and completely hate me because they're constantly saying, "Oh, if you're this, you're going to hell." And even when I came out, people would tell me to my face, "Oh, so you've chosen to go to hell. See you later." You know. And even recently, there's people who I guess didn't clock me or something, and I told a friend of mine, I told my handle on YouTube. They don't talk to me anymore. Someone I've known for 30 something years.
I think the real system of justice, you need to be able to demonstrate there was a victim. If there's no victim, there was no crime.
Yeah.
hashtag legalize prostitution.
I say stop shaming everybody. Live your life in peace.
Oh, right.
Well, especially when you
Well, I don't know
Didn't
about
we
that.
just go over some of this stuff Sunday, Junk Shop?
You know, in the consenting adult realm, Granny, in the consenting adult realm, you know.
Well, no, actually, well, what I was going to bring up was Grayson Fritz, Steve Anderson. I think we can shame those people.
Absolutely. Your last video
I
had
don't think
me.
it counts as shaming someone if what they're advocating is dangerous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
If you've got a group of people saying, I think it's a good idea for children to stick metal forks into electrical sockets, it's not shaming to tell them, don't do that, you big, dumb, stupid you.
Yeah, no, like I think there are
people like Fritz and Anderson and whatnot are going around advocating for death and suicide.
Also, Posey Parker.
That's just pointing out that somebody's dangerous.
Also,
Or
Posey
children.
Parker on YouTube is promoting armed men to basically go into bathrooms and try to intimidate people, to intimidate trans people.
Yeah,
she recently has said that we have reached a point of insanity.
Okay,
and
so
fear of the LGBTQIA.
they're worried about trans people because they're afraid a guy's going to disguise himself as a woman to go into the woman's bathroom. But they're promoting guys carrying guns going into the woman's bathroom.
These people hatred doesn't make sense. When you're fearful and you're angry, none of it makes sense, you know?
There are very few things that I will say are shameful, but things that do cause harm, as Junkshop was saying, or, you know, policing bathrooms and trying to demand people not be true to themselves, things that do harm, I consider shameful. You know, very few things like that others, especially Christians, consider shameful, do I find shameful. Nudity, I don't think it's shameful. Having sex, you know, before you get married, I think is a good idea, because waiting until you're married and then you find out that you're not sexually compatible with that person, that is a recipe for pain and suffering for the rest of your fucking life.
I agree.
Especially if you don't believe in divorce. So,
well, I think the whole thing about no sex before marriage was because the woman's not supposed to have a choice who she marries, and the guys don't want to take the chance of her finding out that he's not as good as someone else she was with.
Yeah, it goes back to the women are property.
Yeah.
I've just the religious fervor is reaching a point of violence nowadays. Like they're going back to their roots where they're like, okay, if we can't be in control, we're just going to start fighting everybody. And it doesn't make sense to me anymore. It's more modern Christianity divides.
I don't know that it's necessarily religion so much as the stupid. We don't like, again, there's a lot of religious people in the North. Like, we're
Fear.
seeing it among a like this very narrow band, a belt, if you will, of idiots. They will believe anything. And right now, they're not getting their way. And our officials are like helping them out. It's insane. We need to be educating people on how to think. Like, I've watched so many videos of people like going into what do you call it, QAnon people, and saying, okay, well, who do you get your news from? I don't know who to get my news from. It used to be Fox News, but it's not anymore. All right, well, how can you tell if the person on the news is telling you the truth or not? And consistently they will say, I don't know. I don't know how to tell if a claim is truthful. And this is where we're at. And I mean, I'm in the North. I'm in Maryland. I'm surrounded by Christians all the time. None of them have ever tried to attack me. None of them asked me what church I go to. Nobody has asked me for my views. I get the random God bless you on occasion, and I okay. I don't see. It's hard for me to tie religion to extremism. Extremism seems to be its own thing, and it will warp almost everything it touches.
Yeah.
I think it's because like that band, that belt you were saying, a lot of those Christians tend to be conservatives, and Fox News has had a stranglehold on conservative viewership for decades, and they are about fear tactics, playing to the lowest common denominator, propaganda, fudging the facts, or even just blatantly not telling the truth. And I recall a while back seeing there was a study that conservative-minded people, like the fear center of their brains is actually like enlarged as opposed to more like liberal people.
Wow.
And stations like Fox News play to that. Like, it's all about fear of the migrant caravan, fear of the liberals taking your guns, fear. And religion also plays on fear. And it's become this like warped, twisted amalgamation of Republican and Christianity, like a Republicanity. And that is where we're really seeing these like hyper partisan, violent, fucking crazy, like QAnon people coming from. It's because for years they've literally been fed a steady diet of Fox News that has heightened their already over enlarged fear response and fear center to a tipping point. And it's terrifying. And I worry about what tomorrow's going to hold when, Fox News is now considered too mainstream, too liberal, too, whatever. They're going to even crazier outlets, which is just going to crank that dial up to over 9,000. And it's frightening.
Honestly. It is.
And on the thing about, how do you tell if they're telling the truth? When they pump out this fear, the people don't even seem to notice when the fearmongers are contradicting themselves.
And propaganda.
Like the Mexicans are so lazy, and they're coming to take your job.
That one always gets me.
I live in Southern California. They're coming to make your country better, work hard, and mind their own business. That's what they're coming. That's what they're coming here to do.
No, we have data on that. Like, if you cared about finding the truth, that is what you would see. We actually have data on it.
Yeah.
They at least here, when we have migrant neighborhoods, they're better taken care of than even my neighborhood. And I live in the burbs where people hide.
Yeah. And when they crank down on the immigrants coming into work, then our food prices go up because they don't have enough people to pick the crops.
I read a while ago in National Geographic that Mississippi kicked out all illegal aliens, and then they had a food, food was rotting on the vine literally because no one was there to do anything about it. And the Americans didn't know the first thing of how to,
they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. Like these are the jobs that they're, taking from us. Americans don't want to be in the hot ass sun for 12 hours a day picking fruit off a vine.
I was about to say, if you could go 15 miles from my house, you make a left and a right, and you're in this giant field where it's basically heading towards Ventura, but they have oranges there, strawberries, avocados. I dare any American, they will hire you right now. If you want to go out there, they'll hire you right now.
No, in California, I saw
an average person won't last a week.
No, in California, they had raised the price to like $20 an hour. Like vine makers were just like, I need to get
the California farmers overwhelmingly voted for Trump. And once he was in office, 20% of their crop rotted in the fields because they couldn't find enough people to pick them.
All farmers got fucked over under Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Even before Trump. Like when you see the Republicans cracking down on, illegals, and, I think it was in North Carolina, or it was one of the states that they actually, had decided that they weren't, something had happened where they weren't allowed to like use undocumented workers any longer. And, a bunch of white people applied for the job. Only a handful actually showed up, and of them, only one made it through the entire growing season. I mean, it's not your job as a bank teller that the immigrants are coming to take. It's literally jobs that nobody else wants to do because of how grueling it is and how low the pay is. Although they are raising the pay to try to entice, Americans to do the work. But I mean, I don't know. A lot of it, I think, does come down to laziness. Like, I mean, not necessarily lazy, like people don't want to do the work, but like going back to the conservative thing and like having other people do your thinking for you. Because you can verify the information on your own, but you're conditioned not to trust mainstream media. So, you don't go look for like mainstream sources for things. And then, you also aren't looking for primary sources. You're not actually going to look at the language of the bill that is passed. And so that's where you get people saying, oh, Kamala was okay to let rapists get off the hook,
or Joe Biden's a socialist.
Yeah. But really, if you actually looked at the language of that bill that she was against, it wasn't about letting rapists get off the hook. It was allowing judges the opportunity of whether or not to put somebody on a sex offender registry. But they were only giving that discretion to judges in statutory cases. So think Romeo and Juliet type thing. But it was only for vaginal penile sex. So same sex people, or trans people were excluded from that protection. They'd automatically be put on the sex offender registry. There was no language in there to allow the judge to say, okay, you're 19, you just turned 19, you're dating someone who's 16, you've been together since you guys were both in high school together, so I'm not going to put you on the sex offender registry because her parents don't like the idea of their daughter dating you kind of thing. The discretion was there for hetero couples, but not for LGBT couples. And that's why she had an issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you could just put the age thing in there, right? Why did you have to add the hetero language? It should have just been, I mean,
well, in California, they're constantly trying to attack the rights of LGBTQIA people, but that's a different conversation. Well, some people feel
that's a whole nation.
Well, they feel that we have too much protection because if you misgender someone, if you misgender someone, you're getting fired. If you come in and say the F word, say the T word, if you say anything derogatory, you're gone. Like no questions asked.
Why are you saying those words?
People want, but in America now, people feel they have the right. But people feel they have the right to be bigots now. And then people who aren't from California, they move here and they say, "Why can't I be a bigot?" And we've had laws on the books since I was a kid where you can't discriminate against anyone here. But they're trying to change the laws.
I don't understand why that's okay to say, why that would ever be okay. You can't say slurs in the workplace.
Yeah.
Isn't that just like Common
Or
sense.
like you can't walk into the grocery store and call someone an F word. You can't you just can't walk around and be an a-hole here.
One
You
of the
know?
things that really changed with the Trump era was exactly that. If you watched, when McCain was running for president against Obama, and these conspiracy theories were coming up that Obama was a Muslim, Obama wasn't born in the United States, and when one of the people at one of McCain's well, I don't want to say rallies, it wasn't a rally, but basically it was more of a town hall meeting type thing. She got up and she asked the question, I heard Mr. Obama is a Muslim. Don't we have to keep him from becoming president? And McCain said, no, Mr. Obama's not a Muslim. I don't agree with his policies, but he's not a bad man. And that's the way politics was. It was still polite. Yeah. And now, when Trump came along, all of that just completely went out of the door. There's no politeness anymore. It's just
from the jump,
rip them to shreds.
As someone who's half black and half Mexican, from the jump when he said Mexicans are rapists, I was like, that guy's got to go. And that was 5.5 years ago.
I said that too. So I said that, and what I was told was that he didn't say all Mexicans, and I'm like,
watch the tape.
Talking point. Well, one, yes, he did. Two. Why is that the talking? Why is that your go-to?
Yeah.
It wasn't that he said all. It was heavily implied that it was most, because some, I'm sure, are good people.
No.
No, that most were bad.
They're bad hombres. They're bad hombres.
If you have to assume something, that means you've never seen it. You're guessing that it might exist. That's what you do when you're assuming. Like, all Mexicans are rapists. I guess there might, like ostensibly that they exist. Like, that's what he actually said.
Yeah.
All Mexicans are racist. That's what he actually said.
Yes, that's exactly what he said.
God.
They should. That's like I said. They should have stopped him 5.5 years ago. But they allowed this to go on in this language, and then it kept on morphing and growing, and then it became acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I remember one conspiracy theory that, there was a small amount of schadenfreude with it, where it's like, kind of, because I really didn't like Hillary. I voted for her because I didn't want Trump to win. But there was a conspiracy going around that Bill Clinton called his buddy Donald Trump and tried to get him into the ring so that, it would knock out all of the competitors so Hillary could coast easily to the White House. And I'm like, dude, that would be the most epic fucking fail. You played yourself if that happened.
Yeah,
I also
thing on the left. The left was saying that.
I also heard that when Donald Trump won, he was genuinely shocked.
He was. 100%.
He was like, oh, these idiots bit. Like what? Like, I actually won. Like, he was genuinely shocked.
Well, the whole month leading up to it, he was
I
promoting.
think it's because
Trump
he found
TV.
a caramel in his pocket. To be honest.
No, he'd been promoting Trump TV leading up to the election. He already had a foot out the door. Nobody saw that coming. Well, except his followers.
Well, we've been going for an hour and a half now, and
we're way off the rails.
That's okay. That's okay. We had a good time, and it was a fun conversation. And I know everyone in the chat joined it, and we had a wonderful audience. And AronRa jumped in for a while, and Harmonica Man jumped in for a while, and so it's been a really good conversation. But I'm going to give everyone a chance for a closing thought on, is the Bible a book of confusion? And at the same time, take the opportunity to shill for anyone you might want to shill for. And then we'll close it down. And let's start with Purple.
Oh, well, yeah, I have actually often promoted the idea that it made more sense if you consider the Bible was written by Satan as a device to, just generate chaos among men. Because who else but the ultimate trickster God would have come up with this?
For real.
So, as far as shilling things, our young friend Sam Chaos is, still kind of finding his direction, but he's got a lot of good stuff going for him. So you should check out whenever he does a stream.
I should adopt him as a grandchild. Kitty.
Okay, so I will shill for Jen. I will be on with her and Lovely Will tomorrow night. Like and subscribe to everybody on the panel because they're all fabulous. Earlier in the chat, I did post a link to Aaron's podcast where I put 2 links in there for his podcast. So go check that out because Aaron is amazing. And like that made my little fangirl heart pitter patter. But anyways, as far as is the Bible a book of confusion? The short answer is yes. The long answer is, are you fucking kidding me? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. But no. Once again, thank you, Gigi, for having me. Like, I appreciate coming on.
She has been shilling your cup. She has been shilling your cup everywhere she goes.
She has.
Honestly, this is up there with my Slytherin cup for favorites. So, and that's saying something because I am a proud Slytherin. But yes, like, share the stream, you know, so people can catch up on it later if they were watching the line or other things. Wear a mask, wash your hands, socially distance, don't be a dick.
And since Godless Sewing brought up the cup, I will mention that my Teespring line is for my artist. My artist is a young trans man who is trying to get financial independence. And so all of the profits from my Teespring line go to him. And he's the one that drew, you know, the Godless Granny logo, the Granny in the rocking chair, all the granny faces. You know, he is my artist.
Awesome.
And his, and
I love you so much, Gigi. Like, you are so fucking wonderful. We need more of you. Can we clone you?
No.
I'll give you a rib.
There you go.
My artist's name is Hutch Halloween, and his Twitter link is in the description. And if you need any artwork, Hutch will, you know, he's got a price list for what he does on artwork. And with that, we'll go to Godless Sewing. Last thoughts and any shilling you'd like to do.
So tomorrow we're gonna have the WTF stream, and we'll be talking about gun control. And just, you know, and you know, well, it's usually an open topic, but gun control is a topic that's close to my heart, and I really think it's important that people understand how crazy Americans are, because in other countries people look at us like, you know, Americans have guns, you're crazy. So I want to explain it to other people, you know, how crazy we really are. So I'll be exploring California state law, you know, it'll be all the fun stuff. Kitty, I don't want to give it away too much, but she may or may not have a license. We're going to explore that. We're going to talk about that. And, you know, in all reality, if the Bible affects you or anyone you know, run. Run as far and as fast as you can. Run like the Flash. Run. If you need help, anyone here will talk to you.
Just watch where you're going so you don't have an A-Train moment for anyone who's seen The Boys.
Save yourself from religion is my advice. Free yourself. What I'm constantly saying, you know, even if you go in a direction I don't like, free yourself, you know. It's not up to me, it's up to you. Save yourself.
Harmonica Man. Any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to show for?
Oh, yeah, about the Bible and many other holy books. They're, you know, I view them as evil, to tell you the truth, because they are not only just full of shit, but they just make good people do bad things. And oh boy, you know, but with the American things, I was going to say, you know, with the jobs and everything like that, with the fear of everybody taking our jobs. Well, that's pretty simple fix. Go down to Walmart. Aisle 7, $3.95. Get yourself a big ass can of self-discipline and get your ass out there and go to work.
Where are my notes? I am right.
But as far as what I got to shill is my channel on Sundays. I'm starting a new show called Shedding Mysticism, and I need guests, by the way. So email me at randallmagley@gmail.com, and let's talk about how you can debunk myths and everything that general population or the religious types have about reality, science, whatever. And it's just about shedding the mysticism of your mind so you can seek out the actual truth and think, for Pete's sakes. Saturday afternoons, I do a live with a harmonica man. It's about talking about music and especially harmonicas. And yes, alcohol and foul language is very welcome. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And as a reminder, this February here is in America is Black History Month, and I will be doing a series of videos on the titans, or I guess pioneers, of jazz and blues music. You know, because I'm the harmonica man. It's what I frickin' do. So
Very
just
appropriate.
keep an eye out for that shit. And that's all
awesome.
I got.
Okay. Maya.
Actually, could I
I'm
throw
sorry,
out one more shill thing?
Sure.
Tomorrow, your friendly neighborhood atheist is having their 1-year anniversary, and they are celebrating it with doing a fundraiser for the Recovering from Religion Foundation.
Awesome.
I was going to shill for that as well. I made a promotion for that. And yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was telling myself, don't forget to promote YFNA. And
well,
the whole reason,
talking about running from the Bible is what reminded me.
And the whole reason I streamed tonight was so I didn't interfere with that show, because I thought that show was yesterday. And then when I looked it up and saw it was tomorrow instead, I went, oops, oh well, but I'd already put the show for today. So, but it worked out well. We had a really good audience today. I'm surprised,
Yeah,
because
you
we
really
were
did have a good turn. You had a great turnout.
Absolutely.
We did. I was worried because the line was running opposite me, and I was afraid everybody would be over there, but we didn't. We got a really good group today, and I'm really happy that so many people came out to see us.
And the wild Arn appeared.
And the wild
That's
Arn
crazy.
appeared.
There's
Yes.
actually a Pokemon, ARON, and it's like a little steel typed Pokemon that looks kind of like a black and white ladybug. So just random Pokemon fact.
Okay, now
And
somebody's
he was-
going to have to do a fan art of that.
He was watching you instead of the line, Granny. So that's
I know,
that's
what's up with
awesome.
that?
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's respect.
Yeah, thank you. Maya.
Oh yeah, me. Yeah, I don't have anything going on, so I don't know if Diana's still here. I want to shill for her because she is an amazing individual who's going through a really hard time, and she's chronically undersubbed. So if you don't know, if you haven't been to Lavender Lady's channel, please go over there, sub to her. She's amazing. Can't say enough good things about her. And is the Bible a book of confusion? I think that the Bible is a book of polemics, and I think it's that it's about morals and how to live. I don't think it was ever meant to be, and I think it's pretty obvious it was never meant to be history. I don't believe they wrote it to be historical or to have any of that kind of context. There are the laws, which are love you, Diana. The laws are the laws, and then the rest of it has it you need to let it do what it does. And I think that trying to make it do something it doesn't do is going to be confusing. I think that confusion is on the individual because there's too much information out there, and if I've found it, then anybody can find it. Or Subdigital Hammurabi. There's a lot of stuff. Oh, you just go to any random playlist and like click play to get indoctrinated. It's, I really like ancient Near East myths. I believe that's what the Bible is, and it fits very neatly in with this genre. And if you let it be kind of like this historical, this is what people used to believe, I think it can kind of be interesting. I like the other ones better, I have to admit. They're a little more diverse, at least. But I don't know. It does what it does, and I think that we should, in the spirit of acceptance, just let things be what they are. It's a lot less stressful on you. That's my piece.
And Mark Caesar is absolutely right. When I was a believer, I most totally, definitely thought that everything in the Bible was history. And part of the reason I believe that was because Josh McDowell, evidence that demands a verdict, more evidence that demands a verdict. And one of the things he says in there is no archaeological discovery has ever contradicted anything in the Bible.
I heard that.
And without the internet, I could not check any of that out. I never found anything that showed him to be wrong until 40 years later.
The big one I heard, there's more evidence to confirm Jesus's existence than there is to, I think it was Julius Caesar or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before the internet, you were just like, wow.
Well, not only that, but how the hell did Moses and his band of merry twits make banana bread out there anyway?
Go from the sky.
Not to mention the fact that there's been no archaeological evidence to ever put the Jews as slaves in Egypt.
At all.
Yeah.
They literally wandered through the Egyptians kept great records. Let's just put it that way. They kept, so if it had happened, they would have written it down or put it on a wall somewhere.
Well, the word Hebrew originates from Egypt, and it means the dusty ones because they were desert nomadic marauders.
But growing up, I remember
Desert
being
pirates.
taught that the Hebrews were the slaves that built the Egyptian pyramids.
Instead, they were just desert pirates
No, they
that
didn't.
were raiding fucking Egyptian villages and slaughtering babies and stealing grain.
And cutting off foreskins. Let's not forget that horrible, scary thing I keep bringing up.
Yeah.
The iron
Traumatized.
pirates, man. That's the only way that Yahweh can't touch you.
Man, if you live there, stay away from that scary tribe over there. Those people are crazy.
Just a little bit.
Crazy times.
And now, last but not least, Junk Shop.
Well, on the question of the night, is the Bible a book of confusion? I will be absolutely damned if I can see how you could read the thing and come to any conclusion other than yes. The book, it's supposedly the holy book of a single particular God. And this book cannot make up its mind whether or not this God character can or cannot read your thoughts. That would be an important thing to know.
Yeah.
If you're setting out to worship something. And the Bible can't make up its damn mind about that. So, yes. My money, yes, it's a book of confusion. In terms of shilling stuff, I would encourage everybody to go over and check out the two channels, Transgarter, run by my friends Callan and Shay, and the Fluid Voice channel, run by Ozma in the Dark and her merry band. They are both groups of fantastic queer creators who really struggle for viewership for reasons that are completely beyond me, because they put out really quality product over on
Junkshop and I are the only people that watch every week, and so you guys need to tune in because I watch every week. I watch both every week.
Do they have a set schedule?
Transguardia is on every Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
5 o'clock West Coast time. I could be way wrong about that.
Go to the channel scroll and check their channel and check the schedule while you're subscribing.
And they just switched to like Tuesdays also. So they have one during the week because I watch their channel. They have one during the week and then one on Sunday.
Pop their links down in the chat.
So because I know I'm stuck to them, but I never see them live.
Yeah, I don't get a chance to see them live. I wind up watching the reruns later at night.
Awesome.
Okay, and my final thoughts on is the Bible a book of confusion? Absolutely. If for no other reason, you'll go and find 10 Christians that don't go to the same church and ask them, what must I do to be saved? The most simple possible question that you could ask of a Christian, and you will get 10 different answers. If you ask a Catholic, they will tell you you must believe in Jesus and keep the sacraments. If you ask someone who's Church of Christ, they will tell you you must believe and be a member of the Church of Christ. If you ask someone who's a Pentecostal, they will tell you you must believe and speak in tongues. If you ask a Baptist, they will tell you you must believe and be baptized. If you ask a Calvinist, they will tell you that you have to have been chosen by God before the foundations of the earth. If the Christians can't tell the most basic thing about Christianity, how can you be saved, from reading the book, then obviously the book isn't clear.
Yeah, and you would think if there was a single message that God wanted to get across, that would have been it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that is if that God wanted to actually save people,
Which is why the Calvinists take the positions that they do, that God only wanted to save the ones that he chose, and he never intended to reveal himself to anybody else.
At least that's more, consistent. Like, that makes more sense with the way, of the world, with how inconsistent the Bible is, with how many different denominations of Christianity there are. So, I mean, that one is more internally consistent, but still.
But if he picked these people before they were born, why did he bother making the other ones?
That's
always been my big
one.
Because he's a sadistic prick.
And to go on what Mark,
I have something though to say. Though in the chat, Otangelo Grasso, I have a disclaimer. No. Okay, continue.
Okay, things that I would like to show for. Tomorrow morning, I will be on Jeff's channel, Godless Scummer, and we will be looking at the tweets of the transformed wife. I have talked about the transformed wife on my channel a number of times. I've always covered her videos, partly because the transformed wife is the first person ever to block me on Twitter. I think I sent 3 or 4 tweets on her channel, on her Twitter page, before she blocked me. So I haven't seen any tweets from her in about a year, because that's about how long it's been since she blocked me. Mostly because I said that, men need consent to have sex with their wives.
Shocker.
Yes, I know.
I mean,
I'm
who would
sure
have thought?
a ton of bricks with her.
Right,
how
exactly.
Stupid and dense and just odd do you have to be to block Gigi? That does not compute. I feel like a freaking robot over here, just breaking down. Who blocks Gigi? Seriously, what's wrong with you?
People who are reading from a script and refuse to deviate from said script.
Or my take on the transform wife, she says some really heinous, horrible, hurtful, damaging things. But I think part of the reason why she's so quick and easy to block people is because she doesn't want to hear outside views, because I think she has her own doubts, and I think she's miserable in her lot in life, and misery loves company. But there's also that she's justifying putting up with everything she does, even though she hates it and is miserable, by telling people this is the word of God, this is how it's got to be. And if she's setting that example, then it justifies it in her own mind why, it's okay for her to be treated like a second-class citizen.
Yeah, well, everything she describes is really a very abusive relationship, and I feel sorry for anyone who has to live in that kind of situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like again, like I mean, I spoke about this on Jen's before, but like I'm a survivor of, domestic abuse. So like seeing her and the things that she says, like part of me despises like her for like all the hate she spreads and all of the misinformation and the toxicity, but then there's like that survivor part of me that really feels for her, because it is obvious that she is in a very unhealthy relationship and that it is damaging to her, like emotionally, psychologically. So like I'm very torn when it comes to her, and I wanted to be on that stream, but I will be on the road at that time, so sadly I can't be there. But that I figured I'd toss my 2 cents into the ether on the transform wife since I can't be there tomorrow. But I think she's just sad. Like she's a tragic character, but that doesn't mean she's not doing a lot of harm, which, like I can compartmentalize enough to be like, no, this person is doing a lot of harm, even if I do have a part of me that feels bad for her.
And then the second
Is
thing
that the woman
is,
that
as
Rachel Oates is always talking about?
One of them.
Yes.
She's done some rebutts of her, yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Snow has as well.
Okay,
Like
sorry,
he's
Grudge,
gone
it's Granny.
through her Twitter
Continue, please.
before.
Yeah, Cirrus has done a couple on her as well.
Yeah.
that series that I did, Does a Bear in the Woods, is water wet, and is the Pope Catholic? Those are all on one video of the transformed wife. I divided hers into 3 parts.
Transformed wife in moderation.
I've known a bunch of bears. I'm here to tell you they will poop anywhere they want.
Hey, I got Mr. Bear from Australia to do a clip for me for that one, so he could confirm that yes, that's where bears do their business.
Amazing.
That was an awesome.
I love that.
That was awesome.
That was an awesome video.
My great uncle actually argued against it though, because one time he went to the outhouse and the bear was already in there, so he left him be.
Right.
That was the smart choice. That was a very smart thing to do.
Okay, the
Hold
second
the
thing I want to
door.
show for is, as Purple said, tomorrow evening, your friendly neighborhood atheist is doing an anniversary stream, and it is a fundraiser for Recovering from Religion, which is an organization that helps people who are leaving religious groups and have. Yeah, there are so many issues that people can have from leaving religion. It can be family issues. It can be employment issues. It can, for some Muslims, it can be, a life-threatening thing to leave your religion. And so they will help people with whatever issue you have for recovering from religion. So that is tomorrow night.
But for many people, when they leave a church, it's leaving their entire support structure behind.
By design, it keeps people afraid to leave because they lose everybody.
And then produced video, what I'm working on right now, I've got 2 things up in the air, and I finally came down with, I'm finally going to finish a video that I've wanted to do for a long time, which is a children's video. And it explains what atheism is to a Christian child. So that one obviously is much more tame than what you're used to hearing from me. And then finally, next Tuesday at my regular time, 7 p.m., will be our next episode of Why Are We Here? And we will have Thomas Westbrook, Holy Kool-Aid, will be here. AronRa will be here. Math Pig will be here. Mama Atheist will be here. And Cynthia, I suddenly forgot Cynthia's last name, Cam Glamoring. Cynthia McDonald. Cynthia McDonald will be here. And so that will be our next episode of Why Are We Here, where atheists content creators talk about what they do on their channels and why. And with that, we are now almost at 2 hours. We've spent nearly half an hour. But that's okay.
Wow.
Because
it's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We got a lot of points out, and definitely send some love up to Lavender Lady's way. She's going through some issues right now, and she needs all the love that you can send her.
Absolutely.
And with that, everyone, wear a mask and live your life. Bye.